An angel fell to the mortal world, but not to save. Only to escape. When white wings are stained with blood. When love turns into sin. Will you choose the light, or sink into the darkness? The answer lies within every page of Fallen Angel. Step with me into a world where heaven and hell are only a heartbeat apart. Fallen Angel. Chapter 1. The Song on the Rooftop. That night, the moon hung thin and sharp as a silver blade, slicing into the pitch-black sky. The town of Tin Exa lay drowned in silence. But Lan could not sleep. She sat by the window, listening to every breath of the night. And then, within the darkness, a strange sound arose, not the wind, not the insects, but a song. The melody lingered, pure and chilling. It was not of this earth, it was like an echo from somewhere higher than the sky itself. The song slipped through the tiles, through the cracks of the window, pierced straight into Lan's chest, making her heart tremble. She swallowed hard. This town was usually peaceful, with few strange happenings, yet for months now, every night when the moon climbed high, that same voice would rise from nowhere. The elders said it was a hymn, a sign that angels were watching over them. Children slept soundly to it, but many grown-ups woke in fright, drenched in cold sweat. Tonight, Lan heard something else, a rustling noise, like enormous fabric dragging across a rooftop. She strained her ears, her eyes wide, and then it appeared. A single, enormous white feather drifted down, turning gently in the air. It landed on the roof across the street, glowing in the moonlight like a shard of trapped snow. But when Lan looked closer, she saw blood seeping from its tip. The red spread slowly, staining half the feather a deep crimson. Lan shivered, stumbling back. The door to her room swung open. "You're still awake?" her mother's voice came, weak and hoarse. Lan rushed to help her sit on the bed. For years her mother had been gravely ill. Her body wasted away, coughing blood. Every healer in town had shaken their heads. Lan was both anxious and helpless. "Did you hear it, Mother?" Lan asked, her voice shaking. "The singing, and the feather that fell." Her mother gave a faint smile, her bony hand brushing Lan's hair. "It's a blessing, child. An angel is watching over us. Don't be afraid." But Lan felt no peace. Her mother's smile held no life, her eyes shining yet empty, as though gazing at some far-off place. She turned back to the window. Outside, the rooftops gleamed under the moonlight. The feather still lay there, as if waiting. But what chilled her more was the sight that followed. Dozens. Hundreds more feathers raining down from the dark. They covered roofs, streets, trees. It was a spectacle both magnificent and horrifying, the whole town cloaked in what looked like snow. But all of it was feathers, some streaked with blood, some still clinging with bits of torn flesh. The singing grew louder, sharper, until it felt like her eardrums would split. Lan clutched her head, but the voices wormed straight into her mind. It wasn't quite singing anymore, but countless voices chanting a prayer in unison. "Holy, holy, holy." Lan trembled violently. A shadow passed across the sky, a tall figure with wings spread wide, blazing like white fire. But when it tilted its head down, Lan saw its face was empty, where eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. There was only a yawning void. She screamed. Her mother gripped her hand tightly, whispering in a fevered haze, "Do not fear, it is God's messenger." Lan wanted to believe her, but her heart pounded wildly, her body frozen with cold. The next morning, the town was in uproar. People poured into the streets to gather the fallen feathers. Some clutched them to their chests, kneeling to pray. Others sold them to merchants from afar, for all believed the feathers to be charms of protection. Lan walked among the crowd, torn between dread and curiosity. The feather she had picked up last night still lay in a wooden box. She hadn't dared touch it again, for it still oozed fresh blood. An old woman at the market spotted her and called out, "Girl, keep that feather. It will heal your mother. Just lay it on her chest and pray." Lan froze. "What did you say?" The crone smiled, her toothless grin eerie. "I've seen it before. A man bedridden for 10 years. After one night with an angel's feather, he rose in the morning as though he'd never been sick. But there are others who, She stopped short, her cloudy eyes flickering with fear. "Never mind, don't ask." Before Lan could react, Her mother's coughing fit rang out from inside the house. She lay collapsed, lips turning blue, blood soaking the pillow. Lan broke into tears, trembling as she pulled out the feather and laid it on her mother's chest. At once, it blazed with light, bathing the room in a gentle white glow. Her mother's eyes opened, her breathing steadied, her face eased. Overjoyed, Lan embraced her, yet in that moment she felt something strange. Her mother's body burned with feverish heat, as if a flame from within. Her eyes sparkled unnaturally bright, like glass spheres reflecting moonlight. "My daughter," her mother's voice rang, no longer hoarse but echoing as though from some distant realm. "The angels have heard our prayer." Lan froze. The warmth spreading from her mother's chest into her hands was not the warmth of life, it was like a sacred fire, both soothing and consuming. Outside, the song rose again, in broad daylight now, clearer than ever. Lan lifted her eyes to the blue sky, and she saw an angel stood precariously atop the house across the street. His wings spread wide, blood dripping onto the tiles. His face was indistinct, save for the blinding light of his eyes, and he was staring straight at her. Chapter 2: The Hollow Eyes. Lan froze by the window. On the roof across the street, the angel stood motionless, like a living statue. The light from his eyes blazed so fiercely she had to squint. Yet she could not look away. It was as if those eyes were boring straight into her brain, digging through her most secret thoughts. He did not sing, he only stood there, staring. The longer he stared, the more numb Lan felt. Something surged inside her chest, sweet and revolting at once, like an invisible hand twisting her heart. "Lan," her mother's voice jolted her back. She spun around, and when she looked again at the roof, the angel was gone. The sky was still bright blue, the sun spilling over the alley. Only a few faint smears of blood remained on the tiles. Lan drew a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Perhaps her eyes had played tricks. But when she turned back inside, she saw her mother already sitting up, looking utterly transformed. The frail, emaciated woman now sat with her back straight, her black hair falling smooth over her shoulders, her skin glowing as though reborn. Her eyes shone with a sharp brightness, no trace of weariness left. "Mother," Lan stammered, you're really well again?" Her mother smiled, a radiant smile so intense it was unsettling. "Do you see now? The angel's feather saved me. This is a miracle." Lan's eyes welled with tears, but suspicion gnawed at her heart. Her mother's gaze shimmered too brightly, bottomless like a dark lake. News spread quickly across the town. Word was that Lan's house had been visited by an angel. Her mother's recovery became living proof. Neighbors crowded in, some carrying their illnesses, others clutching feathers, all desperate for a miracle. That evening, the courtyard overflowed with people. Lan stood nervously by the door as they knelt before her mother. Her mother sat in the center like a saint, eyes glowing, laying her hands on each bowed head. And strangely, they changed. The elderly walked nimbly. A child with lung disease grew rosy-cheeked. Cries of joy rose, calling Lan's mother, the chosen one. Lan was horrified, not just by the miracles, but by the eyes of those healed. They gleamed like her mother's, unnaturally bright, and when they smiled, their grins bent oddly, all mirroring each other. That night, Lan could not sleep. She hugged her knees, ears straining. As expected, the singing began again, but this time, it was not from afar, it came from inside the house. Trembling, she crept into the hallway. White light spilled through the crack of the living room door. She peered inside. Her mother knelt on the floor, arms spread wide. Above her, a ghostly form appeared, the same angel Lan had seen in daylight. His wings were vast, feathers dripping blood, falling onto the tiles. His face no longer hollow, but whole and too perfect, sculpted with flawless beauty. Yet that very perfection was terrifying, for it bore no life. Her mother raised her head, her voice resounding as though dozens spoke at once. "We praise you, Ariel, grant us your wings." Lan clamped a hand over her mouth, heart pounding. The angel bent down, placing his long hand on her mother's head. The whole room burst with light. Lan saw her mother's back convulse, and then, from her flesh, something sprouted. Not hair, not bone, but wings. Ragged, blood-soaked wings unfurled behind her. Quivering like living things, Lan choked back a scream, fled to her room, and hid under her blanket. The song still echoed, seeping into her dreams. The next morning, she woke to knocking at the door. On the porch stood a man in a worn cleric's robe. His skin was sun-darkened, his beard unkempt, his eyes deep and sharp. "Child," he spoke in a low voice. "I must see your mother." Lan eyed him warily. "Who are you?" "I was once a priest of the old chapel. My name is Twain." He hesitated. "I know, what's in your house is no angel." Lan's face drained of color. Twain leaned close, lowering his voice. "If you wish to save your mother, come to the abandoned chapel at the edge of town tonight. Bring the first feather you picked up. That is the proof." He turned and left, leaving Lan in a storm of confusion. By evening, the town again gathered at her house. People knelt, begging for blessings. Her mother stood upon the steps, regal, ragged white wings twitching as though breathing. Each time she touched someone, the wings shuddered, and their eyes lit up. Lan watched from the corner, heart clenching. The townsfolk were changing, becoming something else. When night fell, Lan steeled herself. She took the first feather, the one still bleeding in its wooden box, and slipped out. The wind whipped, carrying a faint metallic tang. Feathers drifted through the streets. Glimmering under the moonlight, Lan hurried on, praying to reach the chapel. The Tin Zay chapel had long been abandoned. Its walls cracked, its cross toppled. The wooden doors groaned as she pushed them open. Inside, candles flickered. Twain was waiting, his gaze fixed on the feather in her hand. "Yes," he whispered, trembling, "a feather of the fallen." Lan pressed forward. "What is a fallen?" "My mother, she's grown wings." "But," Twain cut her off, grave, "not all angels are grace. Some, once they touch mankind, their souls fracture. They hunger for worship. To sustain their form, they devour the souls of believers. What you saw is a broken seraphim." Lan stood paralyzed. He stepped closer, pointing at the feather. "This blood is the proof. They bleed when their purity is lost. If we do not stop it, the whole town will become an army of empty puppets." Lan shuddered, gripping the feather tightly. Outside, the singing roared, louder than ever. The chapel walls trembled. Twain's jaw clenched. "He knows we are speaking of him." Lan spun toward the shattered window. Across the moon, a vast shadow swept by, wings stretched wide, trailing a long streak of blood across the sky. Chapter 3: The Cracked Sanctuary. The song outside grew louder and louder, no longer like a distant wind but flooding through flesh and blood itself. The chapel's candles quivered, their flames bending, shadows of two figures dancing upon the moss-stained walls. Lan clutched the feather tight, her hands trembling. Blood seeped from it, hot and fresh, soaking into her skin. The metallic stench rose sharp in her nose, making her gag. Twain gripped her shoulders, his eyes sharp as blades. "Listen to me, child. The Ariel you saw is no angel of light. He is only a reflection, once standing near the throne. But when he looked down upon mankind, he fell. He craved their eyes of worship. Their knees bowed low, and so he was corrupted. But my mother was healed." Lan burst into tears, her voice choking. "She truly is well again. How can that be evil?" Twain fixed her with a harsh gaze, his voice rough. "You're mistaken. Illness is but a shell. He takes away the fragile pieces of the soul to patch his rotting wings. Your mother is no longer whole." The words pierced Lan like a dagger. She wanted to protest, but the memory of those ragged wings sprouting from her mother's back, the glassy light in her eyes, her throat sealed shut. Suddenly, plaster dust rained from the cracked dome. A dry snap echoed overhead. The chapel shuddered. Lan looked up, just as a massive feather slithered down through the broken tiles, writhing like a snake. Behind the altar, Twain roared, dragging Lan away. At that instant, the roof split open. A torrent of light poured down, swallowing every sound with its hymn. And within that light, Ariel descended, his wings stretched wide, filling the nave, every beat rattling the walls. Along each feather, thousands of tiny eyes blinked open, darting wildly, all fixed on Lan. His face no longer perfect, but shifting endlessly, at one moment a handsome man, the next a holy maiden, then collapsing into a pulsing red mass with no form at all. Lan screamed, pressed flat to the ground beneath the crushing light. Ariel spoke, not with a mouth, but with a voice from every corner, as if the sky itself were speaking. Little one, I have watched you for long. You cried in the night. You wept for your mother's sickness. I gave you what you desired. Why do you fear me? Twain stepped before her, raising a broken crucifix high. You are not light. You are the fracture of heaven. Ariel's laughter thundered, like 1,000 bells tolling at once. He swept a wing across. The crucifix shattered. Twain hurled against the wall, blood gushing from his lips. Lan rushed forward, but Ariel barred her way. His hand stretched down, long fingers like withered branches clamping her chin. His touch was cold as marble, unyielding. You carry my first feather. His eyes flared. That is the covenant. You will be my new wings. Lan quaked, clutching the blood-soaked feather. Images crashed into her mind, the whole town prostrate. Each person sprouting wings, each gaze hollow, lifted skyward. Above them, Ariel stretched his wings, panting like a beast drunk on blood, drinking their souls. No, it's not real. Lan sobbed, stumbling back. A trembling hand seized her wrist. Twain, bleeding and broken, whispered hoarsely, "Stab him?" Lan looked down at the feather. Its bloodied edge gleamed, blazing like molten steel. Ariel's many eyes constricted. His voice rang, sharp as thunder. "Child, you would defy my grace?" Without thought, Lan screamed and drove the feather into his wing. The world exploded. The song turned to a shriek that ripped her ears. Blood sprayed, but not red, white. Searing light poured out, salty, burning and freezing all at once. Ariel writhed, recoiling his wings. The eyes along his feathers clamped shut. Then burst tears of blood. His whole body trembled, his brilliance sputtering like a dying flame. Lan was flung aside, crashing hard onto the stone floor. Her vision blurred, but she saw Ariel dissolve into a wavering shadow, retreating upward, vanishing into the night. The hymn was gone, only the wind moaned through the cracks. Gasping, Lan clutched her chest. Beside her, Twain groaned faintly, still alive but drenched in blood. Are you all right?" Lan stammered, helping him up. Twain coughed, voice raw. "He is not dead, only driven back. He will return, and he will seek you, at any cost." Lan froze. In her mind, Ariel's words still echoed, *, "You will be my new wings." Outside, the sky was streaked with white blood. And somewhere in the night wind, Lan heard a whisper, soft as a lullaby, yet dreadful, "Holy, holy." Chapter 4. Wings of Blood. Lan helped Twain out of the ruined chapel. The moon had sunk behind dark clouds, leaving only a murky sky. The road back to town was littered with torn feathers, mixed with clotted white blood. With every step, a rustling sound rose, as if thousands of whispers crawled beneath the earth. "We must hurry," Twain panted, one hand clutching his bleeding chest. "If he mends his wings in time, the whole town will become a living altar." Lan dared not imagine it, yet her heart weighed heavier still, haunted by the image of her mother, the ragged wings trembling behind her back. The unnaturally bright eyes. She was no longer her mother, or at least, not entirely. At the town gate, they froze. Every house blazed with light, not from oil lamps, but from a milky radiance pouring from within. In the streets, villagers knelt in rows, eyes glowing, mouths chanting in unison, "Holy, holy, holy is Ariel." The chant flowed ceaselessly, like an endless stream. None moved, only bowed their heads in the same direction, the town square. Holding her breath, Lan pulled Twain behind a stone wall. Through a crack, she peered out and nearly collapsed. Her mother stood there. She wore a white gown Lan had never seen before, fabric thin as mist, its hem drenched in blood. The wings on her back had doubled in size, no longer ragged but draped in crimson feathers, each quivering as if alive. When she lifted her hand, hundreds bowed low, foreheads pressed to the ground. Above her, Ariel's shadow shimmered, like her reflection. He had not fully manifested, but clung to her wings, siphoning the light from her body. Lan's breath caught. "Mother." Twain gripped her shoulder, his voice hoarse. "That is no longer your mother. He has planted wings into her flesh, turning her into his extension. She is only a vessel." Tears streamed down Lan's face. Yet she could not look away. Suddenly, her mother's eyes swept over, piercing the shadows. Finding her daughter, she smiled, the same gentle smile from years past. Yet her eyes blazed with dreadful light. Lan, my daughter. Her voice rang like 1,000 bells. Come here, kneel. Together we shall offer wings to Ariel. Lan trembled, stumbling back. Twain yanked her to run. But the chanting swelled, like 10,000 mouths at once. The villagers slowly rose, eyes blazing, turning toward them. We've been seen. Twain's teeth clenched. Run. They fled into a dark alley. Footsteps pounding behind them, dozens in pursuit, moving with puppet-like precision. Their mouths sang in unison, shaking the night. Lan gasped, heart hammering. She glanced back. One villager lunged close, eyes white, back splitting open with small bones, sprouting bloody wing buds. He screeched, no longer human. Twain spun, slashing with his broken cross. A flash of light, and the man collapsed, body convulsing before crumbling into white ash. But more surged forward. We can't fight them all. Twain roared. We must reach the cemetery beyond the hill, where holy ground remains. There, his wings cannot reach so easily. Lan bit her lip and nodded. They veered down a narrow path out of town. The chanting echoed still, louder and nearer, as though the whole town converged on them. Across the barren field, icy wind cut through. At last, the cemetery emerged, gravestones leaning, wild grass choking the earth. A chill crept over her skin, but at least it was quiet. Twain collapsed, gasping, blood pouring from his wounds. Lan propped him against a stone. We can hide here for a while, he rasped. But listen, girl, you must choose. Choose what? Lan choked. Either cling to your mother, and let Ariel fully claim her. Or, sever the bond. Save the town, but lose her forever. Lan's face drained of color. No, impossible? Twain's eyes burned into hers. The stronger the mortal's weakness, the deeper the fall. Ariel uses your love for her as the doorway. If you waver, he will win. Lan clutched her head, sobbing. A voice sang in her mind. Soft now, like a lullaby. My child, it's me. Let me hold you, just once, and we will be together forever. Lan's head snapped up. That voice wasn't imagined, it echoed behind her. She turned. Her mother stood in the graveyard. White light spread like mist, swallowing the tombstones. Blood wings unfurled, each feather dripping crimson onto the grass, sizzling like acid. Above her, Ariel's shadow coiled tight, like a serpent around her form. Mother, Lan stammered, torn between terror and yearning. Twain forced himself upright, shouting, Don't listen, that's not your mother. But her cold hand reached out, her smile radiant and tender. Come, Lan, don't let a stranger tear us apart. Lan stepped forward slowly, heart constricting, reason fracturing. In that instant, Ariel's eyes opened across her mother's back, thousands of blazing orbs, all fixed on Lan. Chapter 5. The Lullaby of the Fallen. Lan stood frozen in the graveyard. The grass beneath her feet was soaked in white blood, sizzling and smoking. The air reeked of a stench both sweetly cloying and bitterly sharp, making her stomach churn. Her mother was approaching, each step gliding as if her feet never touched the ground. The crimson wings behind her drooped low, every slight beat spraying blood that shimmered like mist. Ariel clung to her like a mirrored shadow, his face pressed against her cheek, whispering in her very voice, Lan, you don't want your mother to die anymore, do you? You begged, you wept, I heard you, so why do you push me away? That voice was soft, sweet as the nights of childhood lullabies. Lan trembled, stumbling back, tears spilling. For a fleeting instant, she saw her frail, gentle mother of years past standing before her. Mother, is it truly you? Lan whispered. She smiled. I am still your mother. Only now I am stronger, more beautiful. We shall live forever. Lan, no more pain, no more sickness. All you must do is take my hand. Her cold hand reached out, trembling with expectation. Don't listen, Twain roared, staggering to stand between them. He raised the broken cross, still stained with blood. That is not your mother, but the fallen one wearing her flesh. The mother, or rather, the thing that wore her face, turned her gaze on him. The gentle smile twisted into something grotesque. Dozens of eyes across the field burst open, all fixed upon him. A beam of light shot forth, shattering a mausoleum wall behind him. Stone exploding, Twain was thrown to the ground, blood gushing from his mouth, the cross flying from his grasp. Lan screamed, "He is not the enemy." Her mother turned back, eyes flaring, whispering, "Then choose, my daughter, that stranger, or your own mother." Lan clutched her head, mind in chaos. Memories flooded back, her mother singing through stormy nights, shielding her when her father left, gasping on a sickbed, all mingled with the image before her now, powerful, radiant, yet monstrous and alien. She sobbed, hands shaking violently. At that moment, the feather in her hand flared again. Red light ignited, trembling as if urging her on. Behind, Twain's faint voice rasped, "Lan, only that feather can sever Ariel's hold on your mother. If not, all will perish." Lan looked up. Her mother still stood there, hand outstretched, eyes gleaming with both love and abyss. "Come," she whispered, "or I will come to you." Suddenly, she lunged, swift as the wind, wings blasting earth and stone. Lan shrieked, swinging the feather across. The blade of light slashed one wing. A scream tore through the graveyard. Every eye on the wings burst blood, streams of white spraying wild. Ariel's form emerged clear, his face twisting, half beautiful man, half beast, before melting into sagging flesh. "Traitor," his voice thundered, shaking the earth. "You dare rise against your own mother?" Lan collapsed, her hands drenched in glowing blood. Before her, her mother clutched the torn wing, crumpling, her eyes brimming with tears. "Lan, my daughter," her voice wavered. "Real at last. It hurts, why did you do this?" Lan's heart clenched, tears blinding her. But Ariel howled, his body wrenching free from her, unfurling colossal wings that blotted out the sky. Endless eyes opened, all locking on Lan. "You will not escape. Lan, you are to be my new wings. You were born to replace this rotting shell." Lan gripped the feather, body trembling. Half her soul screamed to run into her mother's arms, half demanded she kill the abomination. Twain staggered upright, shouting, "Lan, only you can end this. Do it now, before the whole town is damned." Lan screamed, her cry ripping through the night. She charged, driving the feather straight into her mother's chest. Light exploded, wild and furious, engulfing the graveyard. Ariel shrieked, thousands of eyes shattering, white blood spraying across the sky. Her mother's scream rang out, agonized, dissolving into the blaze. Lan was hurled back, crashing to the ground. Before darkness claimed her, she saw her mother's eyes, her true eyes, no longer blazing, only gentle and tearful, looking at her one last time. "My child, I love you." Then all was swallowed by shadow. Chapter 6. Ashes and Whispers. Lan jolted awake. The air reeked of burning. Ash coated her face. She coughed violently, struggling to rise. Before her, the graveyard lay in ruins. Tombstones shattered, grass scorched, the ground split as though struck by lightning 1,000 times. She looked around. Ariel was gone. Her mother too. Only streaks of congealed white blood remained, glowing faintly like dying phosphorescence before flickering out. Lan broke down sobbing. The sound tore from her throat raw and jagged. Her mother, truly gone. "Lan," a weak voice called. Twain. He was slumped against a broken tombstone, his body bleeding, but his eyes still open. Lan scrambled over, grasping his shoulders. "You're alive?" she cried, tears blurring her face. He managed a faint nod, lips pale. "You did it. You severed the bond. Ariel can no longer cling to your mother's body. At least, the town is spared the winged sacrifice." Lan choked. "But, my mother, where is she?" Twain's gaze drifted afar, heavy with sorrow and resolve. When someone becomes a vessel, their soul is crushed to feed the fallen. But sometimes, in their final moment, love is stronger than the chains. "I believe your mother broke free, gone somewhere Ariel cannot reach." Lan bowed her head, torn between agony and fragile relief. Suddenly, a cold wind swept the graveyard, carrying faint whispers. Lan looked up. From the cracks in the earth, ashes lifted into the sky, twisting into pale threads of smoke. Within them, she glimpsed tiny eyes flickering, then vanishing. No, Twain whispered, face pale. He isn't dead. Ariel still lingers. Lan shuddered. What do you mean? I stabbed him. The fallen cannot be killed so easily. Twain coughed blood. Every mote of ash, every drop of white blood, is a seed. If they remain, he will rise again. Horror struck Lan as she saw the white stains soaking into the grass, each blade trembling as if wings were about to sprout. We must stop it, Twain gritted. Only one way. Burn everything. Purge this land. If not, the town itself will become his cocoon. Lan shook her head, despairing. But how? I'm just one person. Twain's trembling hand gripped her shoulder. Not just you. The townsfolk too. They were bound by him. But now they are free. Gather them. Tell them the truth. Turn fear into fire. Lan froze. She had never imagined speaking before the whole town. But Twain's eyes shone, even through exhaustion. You are the only one who can. Because you had the courage to choose. Lan bit her lip, then nodded. At dawn, she led Twain back toward the town. The sight crushed her breath. People lay scattered in the streets, clothes torn, eyes hollow, as if waking from a long nightmare. They looked at each other in bewilderment, not knowing what had happened. The house that had blazed white the night before was now collapsed. Walls streaked with dried blood. The square lay in ruin, its center a black pit, the place where Ariel had clung to her mother. An old woman staggered forward, clutching Lan's hand. What happened to us? I dreamed of singing, then all went dark. Lan swallowed hard, heart aching, but then she drew a deep breath, raising her voice for all to hear. It was no dream. You were bound by a fallen one. He sought to turn us into his wings, to be reborn, but my mother sacrificed herself to sever him. Now, we must prevent his return. The crowd murmured, faces pale, confusion giving way to dread. Lan pressed on, his ashes and blood remain. If left, he will rise again. We must burn every trace together. If not, the nightmare will return. Someone stammered, and, if we cannot? Lan clenched the charred feather in her hand, voice trembling but resolute. Then we all die. Not just this town, this entire land. Silence weighed heavy. Then a young man stood, gripping his axe. I saw my wife's bones grow from her back. I won't let it happen again. I'll help. Another nodded, then another. One by one, the crowd answered in unison. We will burn it all. Tears welled in Lan's eyes as she whispered, Mother, I won't let your sacrifice be in vain. By dusk, smoke rose everywhere. Villagers gathered every fragment of ash, every drop of white blood, every broken bone, and cast them into the flames. The sky glowed with fire. The chants of the night before were replaced by cries, fearful, grieving, yet freed. Lan and Twain sat on the hillside, watching the blaze. Twain panted, his face pale. Lan fretted, You must rest. Your wounds. He shook his head faintly. No, it's enough to see them stand again. The wind carried black ash toward the horizon. For an instant, Lan heard faint whispers, like a warped lullaby. She shivered. Twain heard it too, his eyes darkening. Listen well, he is not gone. Ariel will whisper in the ashes, in the wind, until another weak heart listens. This is only the beginning. Lan gripped his hand, her eyes blazing with resolve. Then we will not let him return. Even if he whispers for 100 years, 1,000 years, I will listen, and I will stop him. In the dying light, her eyes reflected the raging fire. A fire born of humankind. A vow against the fallen angel. Chapter 7. Seeds in the Ashes. Night fell after a day of fire. The entire town had become a sea of smoke. Black ash coating rooftops, seeping into every crack of doors and alleys. Exhausted townsfolk huddled together. The cries of children, the sighs of adults, and the crackle of burning wood filled the air. Lan could not sleep. She sat by a small fire, the half-burned feather resting in her palm. Though its radiant glow was gone, it still pulsed with warmth, as if blood still flowed within. A faint voice echoed in her mind, not her mother's, but something else. Lan, you think you've won? Ash is only earth, and earth always gives birth to seed. She shuddered, clenching the feather. The voice vanished instantly, leaving only a dreadful void. You heard it too, didn't you? Tuyen's voice rasped from behind. He hobbled forward on his cane, frail and short of breath. Lan turned, nodding slightly. Yes, like whispers in the ash. He sat down beside the fire, eyes fixed on the flames. I once believed destroying his body was enough. But Ariel is different. He doesn't only cling to flesh. He plants memory. He plants longing. Anyone weak of heart will nurture him with their own pain. Lan lowered her head, eyes red. You mean, like me with my mother? Tuyen gave no answer, only laid his bony hand upon her shoulder. At dawn, the town awoke to a strange sight. From the ashes scattered across the land sprouted tufts of pure white grass, soft as feathers. At first, the townsfolk found them beautiful. Children picked them to play. Adults murmured, "Perhaps this is a sign we are forgiven." But Lan's blood ran cold. The white blades swayed not with the wind, but as if breathing. When she touched one, clear fluid oozed forth, thick and icy. "Don't touch it," she cried, yanking a child's hand away. "This isn't ordinary grass." The crowd murmured uneasily. A middle-aged man frowned. "Girl, don't spread more fear. We've suffered enough. It's only grass." "No." Lan shook her head, voice breaking. "These are Ariel's seeds. If they spread, he will return." Whispers of doubt spread. Some nodded, eyes wide with fear. Tuyen stepped forward on his cane, his hoarse voice ringing firm. "She speaks the truth. Do you want to be lulled again? Do you want wings of bleeding bone sprouting from your backs?" Silence fell. The middle-aged man bit his lip but did not argue further. Lan drew a breath. "We must burn it all." Again. That afternoon, they gathered the white grass into piles and set them ablaze. Flames roared, smoke curled skyward, but within the smoke came shrill screams, like children crying, mixed with a ghostly lullaby. "My children, why do you forsake me? Why burn my body?" Many townsfolk clutched their heads, collapsing in tears. An old woman sobbed, "That's my son's voice. He's calling me from the fire." Chaos erupted. Someone shouted, "Stop, we're killing our loved ones." Lan rushed forward, shouting, "They are not your kin. Ariel is twisting memories to deceive you." But her words seemed powerless. A group hurled themselves at the burning piles, scattering grass, cradling it as if treasure. White fluid seeped into their skin, eyes glowing as they convulsed. "No, don't touch it," Lan screamed. Too late. From their backs, bones burst forth, dripping blood. They shrieked, writhing on the ground, spewing white fluid that mingled with ash into a foul sludge. The townsfolk shrieked in terror. Fleeing, Tuyen collapsed, face pale. He has begun sprouting within them. Lan trembled, clutching the feather. She cried out, her voice shattering, "Listen to me. If you keep believing those voices, Ariel will use you as cocoons. We must smother the fire or feed it. Choose." A heavy silence. Then the same middle-aged man, who had opposed her before, staggered forward. Tears still streaked his face, but he flung the white grass from his arms into the blaze, shouting, "Burn it all. Don't let him trick us again." The crowd roared in unison. Bundles of white grass were hurled into the fire. Flames surged high. The cries and songs grew louder. But this time the townsfolk shouted back together, "Burn it. Burn it all." Lan screamed with them, tears streaming, thrusting the feather deep into the ash. A crimson flare burst forth, splitting the smoke. Ariel's voice bellowed, seething with fury, "You think you can destroy me? I am the faith you abandoned, the lullaby you crave in the dark. I will return within your very hearts." Then his voice dissolved into the howling wind. The white grass burned to nothing, leaving only drifting black ash. The townsfolk collapsed, weeping, but their eyes were clear, no longer clouded. Tuyen coughed violently, blood staining his lips. Lan caught him as he fell. He smiled faintly. "You've done it again. But remember, Lan, Ariel is not dead, only asleep. And as long as mankind is weak, he will whisper again." Lan raised her eyes to the ashen sky. The fire still blazed within them, but deep in the wind, she heard that faint lullaby once more. She closed her eyes, clutching the feather tight. The vow echoed in her heart once again. "No matter when he returns, I will rise." Chapter 8. The Lullaby in Dreams. Night fell. After a long day of burning the white grass, The villagers collapsed beside their fires. Drained. No more singing, no more crying, only the weary breaths of those who had just escaped death. Lan was exhausted too. She lay by the fire. The feather clenched tightly in her hand. Her eyelids grew heavy, yet she dared not sleep. She feared that once she closed her eyes, the voice would return, but her body betrayed her. Fatigue dragged her into the abyss of unconsciousness. In her dream, she stood in the town square. Everything was strangely silent. The ruins and gaping pits had vanished, replaced by the town whole and beautiful, untouched by calamity. Oil lamps glowed. Children laughed. The smell of fresh pastries drifted through the streets. Lan staggered. This can't be. Then a voice called, warm and familiar. Lan, my daughter. She turned. Her mother stood there, not the frail figure of her final days, nor the blood-winged creature from before. She was healthy, radiant, her face glowing under the lantern light. In her hands was a steaming pastry, fragrant as in the old days. Come, eat with me, she said, smiling gently. Tears streamed down Lan's face. Her whole body trembled, torn between running forward or fleeing. No, this isn't real. You're dead. Her mother shook her head, stepping closer, eyes soft as ever. I never left you. You only need to let go. You're too tired. Lan, let me hold you. Her hand brushed Lan's cheek. Warmth spread across her skin. Lan choked, nearly collapsing into that imagined embrace. But then, in her mother's eyes, a white gleam flickered, splintering into countless tiny eyes. The gentle voice stretched, warped. My child, you are my wings, my seed. Lan recoiled, screaming, Ariel. Her mother's figure shattered, spilling bloody feathers. The square erupted in flames. The laughing townsfolk sprouted bleeding wings. Shrieking, Ariel loomed in the dream sky. Vast, thousands of eyes glaring down. You think you can keep running? You slashed my wings, destroyed my vessel. Now, you will replace it. Lan trembled, clutching the feather even within the dream. It blazed crimson. She shouted, I won't let you turn me into a cocoon. Ariel laughed, his voice filling the heavens. You say that, yet you still crave your mother's embrace. I am that embrace. The harder you resist, the deeper you sink. The sky collapsed. Thousands of pale arms stretched from the void, wrapping tight around her. She thrashed, screamed until her throat tore. The feather flared, but the hands did not fade, they clung tighter. Chains of flesh. Lan could not breathe, her vision blurred. The lullaby rose again in her ears. Sleep, my child, sleep within my wings. She jolted awake, drenched in sweat. The night was still dark, the fire dead to embers. Her breath came in gasps, her heart pounding to burst. Nightmare? Twain's voice rasped. He sat nearby, eyes hollow, body weary. Lan clutched her head, recounting in a trembling voice. When she finished, his brow furrowed deep. He's found his way into your dreams. This is dangerous. Ariel is binding you with memory, as he once bound your mother. Lan's voice cracked. What do? I don't want to become a vessel like her. Twain fixed her with a grave gaze. He does not conquer through force, but through consent. If you allow yourself to yearn for that embrace, he will seep in. The only way to resist is to reject the voice you love most. Lan's face went pale. But if I reject it, it means killing my memory of my mother. Twain nodded slowly. Yes, that is your trial. Lan gripped the feather, tears streaming. Mother, how can I both keep you and defy him? There was no answer, only the cold wind, carrying drifting ash. In its whisper, Lan heard that faint lullaby, echoing from within her own heart. She clutched the feather tighter, trembling as she whispered, I will sing to myself. I need no other lullaby. That night, Lan did not sleep again. She sat by the fire until dawn, eyes fixed on the ashen sky. In them, the flames still burned, but deep inside lay a terror that every time she closed her eyes, Ariel would be waiting, with her mother's face. Below is the story of the fallen angel, taken from the Bible but darkened. What do you think? Don't forget to like and subscribe to catch the thrilling stories coming soon. Goodbye, and see you again.